Ever dreamt of waking up to, like, the sound of waves crashing and, maybe even making some cash while you're off on other adventures? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. Beachfront condos, specifically in Hua Hin, Thailand.
Sounds idyllic.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We've been looking at this really interesting article from Ocean Worldwide, a luxury real estate agency,
Whoa,
actually.
interesting.
Yeah, they're based in, get this, Phuket.
Phuket.
Yeah, been around since 2004. And they've got this director, Sandra O'Neill, who's helped tons of families, investors, you name it.
Wow, so they really know their stuff.
Exactly. And their focus is luxury residential real estate in Phuket and Koh Samui. So they're really in the thick of it. Anyway, this article talks about like the investment potential of these beachfront properties in Hua Hin. And we're going to break it all down, the good, the bad, the trends, the things you really need to think about.
Yeah.
So by the end of this, you'll have a much better idea if a Hua Hin beachfront condo is the right move for you.
Sounds comprehensive. Where do we start?
Well, let's start with the Hua Hin real estate market itself. What's the current state of play?
Okay, so from what Ocean Worldwide is seeing, it's kind of a mixed bag, to be honest.
Mixed bag. In what sense?
Well, the market's been stable, which is good. Property values are going up, but slowly. Kind of a steady, slow growth over the past few years, so it's not a boom market, but it's consistent.
So not a get-rich-quick scheme, but a solid, reliable kind of growth.
Exactly, and I think that reflects Hua Hin's appeal. It's a popular spot for both Thais and international buyers looking for a more chilled-out lifestyle.
Makes sense. But what kind of specific trends are they noticing in Hua Hin? Anything that stands out?
Yeah, a few things. There's definitely an increase in demand for luxury condos. And not surprisingly, more and more developments are popping up that are aimed specifically at retirees.
Ah, the retirement haven. Classic.
Right. And this might be interesting for our listeners. There's growing interest from foreign investors,
Yeah.
particularly from Europe and Asia.
That's interesting. So the market is becoming more international.
Definitely seems to be heading that way.
Now, the article also mentioned keeping an eye on Thailand's overall economic situation. Why is that so important for this kind of investment?
Well, think about it. The bigger economic picture always has an impact on real estate. Things like interest rates, inflation, government policies, all of that can either boost demand and prices or, create obstacles that slow things down.
Oh, I see. So you're saying that understanding the overall economic climate in Thailand is as important as, like, researching individual properties.
Absolutely. It gives you the bigger context, the background against which these individual properties are performing. You can't just look at one without the other.
That's a really good point. Now, beyond these trends, what is it about Hua Hin that's attracting people in the first place? What's a core appeal based on Ocean Worldwide's experience?
Well, a lot of it comes down to lifestyle. I mean, Hua Hin has these amazing beaches, top-notch golf courses, which, Ocean Worldwide's clientele probably appreciate, and it's just a much more tranquil environment compared to, say, Bangkok.
Right, so it's like a getaway from the city.
Yeah, exactly. It's a place to relax and unwind, and it's close enough to Bangkok to make it a popular weekend escape, too.
Best of both worlds.
Exactly. And the growing expat and retiree community is another big factor. I mean, Hua Hin's cost of living is lower, the healthcare is good, and the local culture is very welcoming.
So it's attracting a diverse range of people.
Definitely. They even mentioned this developer, Seacon, who's specifically targeting civil servants.
Really? That's interesting. So there are these specific niches within the market as well.
It seems so, yeah.
Now, looking ahead, what's Ocean Worldwide's take on the future of the Hua Hin property market? What kind of trajectory are they predicting?
Well, it's always tough to predict the future, right? But the outlook seems positive. They're expecting moderate, sustainable growth.
That sounds promising.
And there's a lot of investment happening in infrastructure, like better transportation networks, which should make the area even more desirable. So as more people discover Hua Hin, the demand for property is likely to keep going up.
But as with any investment, there are always risks, right? What are some of the potential challenges that Ocean Worldwide highlights?
Oh, for sure. There's always the possibility of an economic downturn, either in Thailand or globally, that could impact the market. And changes in government regulations regarding property ownership or foreign investment are always something to keep in mind.
So it's about staying informed and being prepared for those external factors.
Absolutely. But, despite those risks, Ocean Worldwide projects a steady increase in property values. They're anticipating something like 3 to 5% growth per year. And rental yields are expected to remain stable, maybe even increase a bit.
So overall, a cautiously optimistic view.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, let's move on to the fun part. The benefits of actually owning a beachfront condo. I mean, those ocean views must be incredible, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's got to be one of the biggest draws. Imagine waking up to the sound of the waves, that sense of peace and quiet, and having the beach right there.
Sounds so relaxing.
It does, doesn't it? It's that quality of life that's really hard to beat, a real escape from the hustle and bustle.
And I imagine that aligns perfectly with the kind of lifestyle that Ocean Worldwide's clients are looking for.
Oh, definitely. But it's not just about personal enjoyment, right? There are also financial benefits to consider.
You're talking about the rental potential.
Exactly. Hua Hin is a popular tourist spot, and there are also a lot of expats and retirees who want to live there long term. So there's strong demand for beachfront accommodations.
That makes sense. So how does that translate into potential income for condo owners?
Well, you've got options. You could do short-term rentals like through Airbnb or Booking.com. The article mentions there are something like 3,000 listings in Hua Hin already.
Wow, so there's definitely a market for it.
Yeah, definitely. Or you could go for longer-term leases, rent to expats or retirees. Either way, that rental income can really help offset your investment costs and maybe even make a decent profit.
So it's like having your condo work for you even when you're not there.
Exactly. And the longer-term outlook is also good. Beachfront properties in places like Hua Hin tend to appreciate in value over time.
So it's not just a lifestyle investment, it's also a financial one.
Right. It's a tangible asset that can grow in value. But of course, you have to factor in things like maintenance costs and the potential impacts of climate change.
Right, those are important considerations. How does Ocean Worldwide advise their clients to address those concerns?
Well, they stress the importance of careful planning and due diligence. You need to be aware of the potential risks and take steps to mitigate them. Things like using professional property management services can really help.
So being proactive and informed is key.
Absolutely. Now, let's dig a little deeper into the rental income side of things. What are the key differences between short-term and long-term rentals based on Ocean Worldwide's experience?
Yeah, I'm curious about that. What are the pros and cons of each approach?
So, with short-term rentals like those Airbnb listings, you can potentially make more money per night, especially during peak season.
Right, because you're catering to tourists who are willing to pay a premium for a short stay.
Exactly. They even mentioned a potential monthly income of around $700 in popular areas like Khao Tak Yab and Hua Hin Town Center. That's probably because those areas are close to beaches and night markets, which are big draws for tourists.
Makes sense. So what's the catch? Why wouldn't everyone just go for short-term rentals?
Well, it's more work. You have to manage bookings, clean the property, deal with guest inquiries, all of that. Long-term rentals are more stable and predictable, and you don't have to be as hands-on. But you might not make as much per month.
So it's a trade-off between potential income and the amount of effort you want to put in.
Yeah, that's the main thing. And they also mentioned business travelers as potential short-term renters, which is interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now let's talk numbers.
Yeah.
What kind of rental yields are we talking about here? What does Ocean Worldwide typically see in Hua Hin?
Well, they usually see a gross rental yield of between 5 and 7%.
5 to 7%. That's not bad.
No, it's pretty decent, but it does vary, depending on things like location and the type of property. Beachfront condos and those in the city center tend to be at the higher end of that range.
So location is key as always.
Always. And, while a 5 to 7% yield is good, it's important to remember that it's considered stable rather than explosive growth.
Right, so it's not a risky speculative market.
Exactly. It's more established and predictable.
Now, does the article give any concrete examples of what kind of rent you could expect to get?
It does. They say a condo right on Hua Hin Beach could rent for somewhere between $300 and $800 per month.
That's a pretty wide range.
Yeah, but it depends on a lot of factors. Size, condition, furnishings, how well you market it, all of that. They also mentioned one-bedroom apartments in Soe 94, which is known for its nightlife, could rent for between $200 and $500.
Okay, so those are some rough benchmarks to keep in mind.
Yeah, exactly. And, they point out that retirees and tourists are the main types of tenants for beachfront condos. Makes sense, right? They want that beach access. While younger people might be more interested in areas like Soe 94 with its modern living and nightlife.
Right. Different strokes for different folks. Now, we've talked a lot about attracting short-term tenants, but what about long-term rentals? Where are the most desirable areas in Hua Hin for that, based on Ocean Worldwide's expertise?
So for short term, Khao Takiab and the Hua Hin Town Center are good bets because of their proximity to attractions and amenities.
Right, makes sense. What about for long term?
For long term, it really depends on who your target tenant is. Families might prefer quieter areas with good schools. Retirees might want to be close to healthcare. But overall, properties near the beach or the city center are always in demand.
Okay, so location is still paramount, even for long-term rentals.
Absolutely. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the cost of living in Hua Hin. How does it compare to other cities our listeners might be familiar with?
Yeah, that's a good point. After all, if you're considering living there, you need to know what your everyday expenses will look like.
Absolutely. And the article makes a big point about Hua Hin's affordability. They say it's significantly cheaper than major Western cities like London or Paris.
Okay, but how much cheaper are we talking?
They actually say you could own 3 properties in Hua Hin for the price of one apartment in Paris. That's a pretty stark difference.
Wow, that's quite a comparison.
It is. And even compared to Bangkok, Hua Hin is about 26% cheaper.
So it's a relatively affordable place to live, even within Thailand.
Yeah, it seems so. And they recommend checking out a Thailand property pack for more detailed cost comparisons.
That's a good tip. Now, what does this affordability mean for expats and retirees who might be thinking about making Hua Hin their home?
It means they can have a much more comfortable lifestyle without worrying as much about money. They give some examples. Renting a one-bedroom flat in the city center could be anywhere from $300 to $600 a month. Utilities might be $50 to $100. And you can get a good seafood meal for $4 to $8.
That's pretty reasonable.
Right. And that lower cost of living, combined with the welcoming community and all the things to do, makes Hua Hin very attractive for retirees, especially.
So it's like a winning combination of affordability and lifestyle.
Exactly. And of course, that lower cost of living also has an impact on your investment returns.
How so?
Well, if your everyday expenses are lower, you get to keep more of the rental income you earn. Your profit margins are higher.
That makes sense. So it's a good place to invest in rental properties.
Yeah, it seems that way. And they also talk about reinvesting those savings, which can help grow your wealth even faster. They even mention the average cost per square meter in Hua Hin, which was around $4,200, according to the Bank of Thailand.
That's a helpful benchmark to have. Okay, let's talk about something that can be a bit tricky for foreign buyers. The legal aspects of buying property in Thailand. What are the key things to know based on Ocean Worldwide's experience?
All right, so first things first, foreigners can't directly own land in Thailand.
Oh, really? So how does property ownership work for non-Thais?
The most common way is to buy a condo on a freehold basis.
Okay, so you own the condo unit itself, but not the land it's built on.
Exactly. But there's a catch. Foreigners can only own up to 49% of the total saleable area in any given condo building.
So there's a limit on how much foreign ownership is allowed.
Right. It's a way for the Thai government to control the market and ensure that it's not dominated by foreign investors.
Interesting. So if you're thinking about buying, you need to make sure that the building you're interested in still has units available under that 49% quota.
Exactly. And they also mentioned comparing this situation with other Southeast Asian countries like Cambodia or the Philippines, which might have different rules for foreign ownership.
So it's worth doing some research on the different options across the region.
Yeah, definitely. Now, besides freehold condos, what are the other ways foreigners can get involved in the Thai property market?
Yeah, what are the alternatives if that 49% quota is filled, or if you're looking for something different?
Well, there's leasehold. That's where you essentially rent the land for a long period, usually 30 years.
So you don't own the land, but you have the right to use it for a set period.
Right. And you can usually renew the lease, but it's not guaranteed. And the terms of the new lease might change.
So there's a bit more uncertainty involved.
Yeah. And another option, though it's more complex, is to set up a Thai company to buy the land.
But that involves dealing with Thai corporate law, which probably gets complicated.
It can, yeah. So it's really about weighing your options and figuring out what best suits your situation.
Now, navigating all of this legal stuff can be overwhelming, especially in a foreign country. What advice does Ocean Worldwide offer for dealing with these complexities?
They say, get a good lawyer, someone who specializes in Thai property law.
So professional legal advice is essential.
Absolutely. They can do due diligence on the property, check the land titles, make sure everything is legal and above board. You really don't want to skip that step.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
Right. And they also mentioned the FETF, the foreign exchange transaction form, which is important for transferring money from abroad.
Okay, so
Uh,
make sure you have all your financial paperwork in order as well.
yeah, and be prepared for things to move a bit slower than you might be used to.
So patience is a virtue when it comes to buying property in Thailand.
Definitely. Okay, so you've sorted out the legal and financial aspects. Now you need to choose where you actually want to buy. What are some of the popular neighborhoods in Hua Hin that Ocean Worldwide recommends?
Yeah, let's get into the different vibes and locations.
Okay, so Hua Hin Town Center is the bustling heart of the town. Lots of restaurants, shops, nightlife, that sort of thing.
Sounds lively.
It is, but maybe a bit noisy for some. Khao Takyab, a little further south, is more relaxed. Beautiful beach, the famous Chopstick Hill.
That sounds nice.
It is. Then, north of Hua Hin, you've got Chanam, which is even more laid back. And they also specifically mention modern condo developments near the beach as being highly desirable.
So there's a range of options depending on what kind of lifestyle you're looking for.
Exactly. And beyond the general vibe, you need to think about practical things, too.
Like what?
Well, how important is easy access to shopping and dining? Do you need to be close to healthcare facilities? What about transportation?
Right, all those practical considerations.
And ultimately, it all ties back to your desired lifestyle. If you want peace and quiet, maybe Khao Takyab is for you. If you're all about beach activities, then a coastal area is the way to go. And if you want a more active social life, then Hua Hin Town Center might be the best fit.
So it's about matching the location to your personal preferences.
Exactly. But as with any investment, there are risks to consider.
Right, let's talk about the potential downsides.
Mm.
What does Ocean Worldwide highlight?
Well, one big one is climate change. Rising sea levels, more intense storms, those are real threats to coastal properties.
So that's something you really need to factor in.
Yeah. And the market can be volatile. Economic conditions change, tourism trends shift, things happen that can make it harder to sell your property quickly or for the price you want.
So it's not a guaranteed return.
No investment is. And then there's the whole issue of maintenance in a coastal environment. Salt air, sand, humidity, all of that can lead to more frequent and costly repairs.
So you need to be prepared for those additional costs.
Definitely. Regular maintenance is key, and a professional property management company can be a huge help.
Okay, so you've weighed the risks and you're ready to buy. How do foreign buyers typically finance a beachfront condo purchase in Hua Hin?
Well, you can get a mortgage, but it might be a bit different than what you're used to.
How so?
You might need a bigger down payment, maybe 30 to 50%, and interest rates could be higher.
So it's not as easy as getting a mortgage in your home country.
Maybe not, but it's still possible. You just need to shop around, compare offers, and be prepared for more paperwork.
And what about these investment loans that the article mentioned?
Those are specifically for people who want to buy property to rent it out or resell it. You'll need a solid business plan to show the lender how you're going to make money.
So they want to see that you're serious about it as an investment.
Exactly. And, apart from the mortgage itself, there are other costs to factor in.
Right, like what?
Well, there are transfer fees, stamp duty, legal fees, a sinking fund contribution, and ongoing maintenance fees. It all adds up.
So it's crucial to have a realistic budget that includes all those additional expenses.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's talk about the lifestyle side of things. What are some of the perks of living in Hua Hin beyond the obvious beach life?
Yeah, well, what's the overall vibe and feel of the place?
Well, it has a really nice community feel, a good mix of locals and expats, lots of social clubs, and a vibrant local culture.
Sounds welcoming.
It is, and English is widely spoken, which is helpful for expats. And the pace of life is much more relaxed compared to Bangkok.
So it's a good place to unwind and enjoy life.
Definitely. And there's tons to do. Great golf courses, lots of water sports, amazing food, markets, temples, you name it.
Wow, sounds like there's something for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And the dining scene is fantastic. Everything from street food to fancy restaurants. Fresh seafood is a big highlight, of course.
That's a big plus for me.
Yeah.
So Hua Hin seems like a great option overall. How does it compare to other coastal destinations in Southeast Asia? What makes it unique, according to Ocean Worldwide?
Okay, so within Thailand, they compare Hua Hin to places like Pattaya and Phuket, which are more known for their nightlife and party scene.
So Hua Hin is more laid back.
Yeah, definitely. It's more about relaxation and a quieter lifestyle, and it has this royal connection because the Thai royal family has had a residence there for a long time. So it has a certain prestige and stability.
Interesting. And what about compared to other countries in the region?
Well, some countries might offer faster growth potential, but Hua Hin is more about the established lifestyle and infrastructure.
So it's a more mature market.
Yeah, I'd say so. And they mentioned comparing Hua Hin to Bang Tao in Phuket, which is a totally different vibe.
Right. Different areas cater to different tastes. So what would you say are Hua Hin's key selling points? What makes it stand out?
Okay, so firstly, it's easy to get to from Bangkok, which is a big plus, and it has a good balance of Thai culture and modern amenities. It's not just a tourist trap, it's a real town with a real community. And it's all about relaxation, good food, beautiful beaches, that sort of thing. It's not really a party destination.
So it's like a hidden gem.
In a way, yeah. And they also mentioned some nearby areas that are worth checking out. Cham, Koh Tao, Prenbori, all beautiful places with their own unique charm.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Let's wrap things up by talking about the long-term value of beachfront condos in Hua Hin. How do they hold up during economic downturns?
Well, the article suggests that they're pretty resilient. They tend to hold their value better than inland properties
Why is that?
because there's only so much beachfront land available and there's always demand for it. So even when the economy takes a hit, beachfront properties tend to stay strong.
So it's like a safe haven for your investment.
In a way, yeah. And historically, they've shown good appreciation rates.
Really? What kind of numbers are we talking?
Well, they gave some rough figures, around 4% appreciation in 2015, 6% in 2018, 5% in 2021, and they're projecting 7% for 2024.
So a steady upward trend.
Yeah, it seems so. And that's driven by things like tourism growth, infrastructure improvements, and the growing expat community.
So it's a combination of factors that are all pointing in the right direction.
Exactly. And if you want to make sure your condo appreciates in value, they recommend being proactive.
What do you mean by that?
Well, keep up with the maintenance, renovate when necessary, maybe hire a property manager to take care of things. That way your property stays in top condition and remains attractive to buyers or renters.
So it's not just about buying the property, it's about managing it well.
Exactly. Okay, so let's go back to our original question. Could a beachfront condo in Phuket, Hua Hin, be a good investment for you? Well, we've seen that the market is steady, there's good rental potential, and the lifestyle is fantastic. But you have to do your research, understand the legal aspects, and be aware of the risks.
Right. It's not a decision to be taken lightly.
No, definitely not. But, the information we've shared today is based on the expertise of Ocean Worldwide, a luxury real estate agency that's been operating in Phuket since 2004. Their director, Sandra O'Neill, has helped countless families and investors navigate the property market there. So they really know what they're talking about.
So as always, knowledge is power. What's the key takeaway that you hope our listeners will walk away with?
I think the most important thing is to really think about what you want out of this investment. Is it purely financial? Are you looking for a lifestyle change? Or maybe a bit of both? Once you know what you're looking for, you can start exploring the options and making informed decisions.
That's great advice. And speaking of informed decisions, perhaps our listeners might want to dig a bit deeper into the current legal framework surrounding foreign property ownership in Thailand. Or maybe compare the long-term climate projections for different coastal areas. Knowledge is power, after all. And one last thing, just a quick reminder. Throughout this deep dive, we've been saying Phuket as Phuket. That's the correct pronunciation, not Phuket.
It's a common mistake.
It is. Anyway, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Hua Hin's beachfront condo market. We hope you found it informative and insightful. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be waking up to the sound of those waves yourself.
It's a lovely thought.
It is, isn't it?